Herbert W. Armstrong brings you the plain truth about today's world news and the prophecies of the world tomorrow.
And greetings, friends. This is Herbert W. Armstrong with the good news of the world tomorrow. What is prophesied for tomorrow for the United States? My friends, 90% of the prophecies of the Bible, and 1/3 of the Bible is prophecy, and 90% of that pertains to our pulsating present and the next 20 or 30 years of our history. And the United States, together with the British Commonwealth, is the very focal center of those momentous prophecies. The people of the United States would be dumbfounded if they knew what is prophesied to happen to the United States and to the British nations inside of the next 10, 20, 30 years. The President and the State Department certainly would make drastic changes immediately in the foreign policies of the United States if they knew. It's about time that this American nation knew the staggering events, the staggering turn of events prophesied to happen to us in the next 20 years. We of the United States are involved as the very central powers in the soon-to-occur world-shaking events that will dwarf the first two world wars into little pop-gun fights by comparison. Our immediate destiny is laid bare in these momentous prophecies. If we knew, we could change our course and avert the most colossal disaster that has ever happened to any people or any nation in all the history of this earth. But our people do not know. Our statesmen and heads of government do not know and will not believe. If our people and their leaders have become too dull of hearing to comprehend, too stiff-necked to heed, the eternal our God has decreed that this warning nevertheless shall be published as a witness that they be left without excuse. What is prophesied for this American nation in the immediate future? Nothing like this, so far as I know, has ever been published. And yet, as I said, 90% of all prophecy pertains to this time, and 1/3 of the Bible is prophecy, and the focal center, the very center of the whole thing of world events that is to occur in these next 10, 20, and 30 years is the United States of America. It seems that the prophecies of the Bible have not been understood. Those who have not ignored them and have tried to expound them have been so woefully mixed up and contradicting themselves with their own interpretations that it has been rather a disgusting spectacle. But no wonder, my friends, because a vital key without which prophetic doors cannot be opened to understanding had become lost. And that key is a definite knowledge of the true identity of the American and the British peoples in prophecy. If you don't know where we are mentioned in prophecy, you can't understand prophecy. And even the very few who in our time have at last come to recognize our prophetic identity in the Bible, and where the United States is mentioned in the Bible and in the Bible prophecies, have somehow been totally blinded as to what is prophesied for our immediate future. That they refuse to accept or to believe. They blind their eyes willingly, although they have the key. They won't accept the truth. Where do we find the United States and the British mentioned in the biblical prophecies? Yes, where? If you'll think this through, listen. We are the wealthiest of nations. We have been the most powerful. We and the British are the same family of peoples. Together, we possess more than 2/3 of all the wealth and the developed resources of this whole world, of this whole round earth on which we live. All other nations combined have little more than 1/4 of the developed wealth and resources of this world out of this earth between them to divide among them. Now, amazing though it is, we have acquired nearly all of our national wealth and greatness since the year of 1800 A.D. Never in history did anything like this occur. Never before in history did any nations that were little nations as we were in the year of 1800 suddenly sprout forth and grow and develop in wealth, in riches, in power, in military power, in financial power, and in political power and prestige among the nations of the world, such as the British and the American nations have done. But my friends, already the British are on the way down. Since World War II, the British have lost a great deal of their power. They are losing their colonies, their foreign possessions, which brought them their wealth. And the United States, at this moment, is having its great strength and its power sapped. It is being sapped and taken away from us, and we don't seem to realize it or to know it. And we don't know why. We are being led into foreign policies and things that we think is wonderful that is merely taking away our strength. And the Russians are so clever that they know that their policy now is bringing the United States down to weaken us to the place where ultimately, if they can keep us going the way we're headed now, they feel that they will finally be able to take us over without any very great fight. It's about time we begin to face the situation and to wake up. Never in history has there been anything like it, where nations grew to such colossal wealth, such great power. Never did any people or nation spread out and grow so rapidly and suddenly, and never did any people or nation ever grow to such magnitude of wealth. Never on the face of the earth has there been a nation of such wealth and such great power as the United States and the British have had during this century. Now why? How did all that happen? No other people ever did anything like it. And I want you to consider one other thing. Our peoples constitute the home and the last defense of professing Christianity. It is our peoples who have sent missionaries into every land on earth. It is our nations who have printed and distributed Bibles by unbelievable millions of copies in the languages of all peoples. We know that Bible prophecies refer definitely to little nations like Ethiopia, Libya, Egypt, and Greece, and through other terms of identification to even such great nations as Russia and Germany. And they refer to Turkey, Italy, and other nations. And Turkey was one of the great nations until not too long ago. Could these prophecies of 20th century world disturbances, then, that fill up a third of the Bible, could they ignore world-dominant Christian-professing powers like the United States and the British Commonwealth of Nations? Is it reasonable? If the Bible prophecies are telling of the nations and the events of the world and of the world wars, which they do of this time, and these world wars are definitely prophesied in the Bible, and if all of those things are in the Bible, and if nations like Turkey and Russia and Ethiopia, Libya, Egypt, and Greece are mentioned in the Bible prophecies, do you think it reasonable, my friends, that God Almighty can foretell the events of this world at this time and leave out the United States and the great British Commonwealth of Nations, the greatest nations that have ever existed in the history of the world, that have ever inhabited the face of this earth? Could the prophecies be the divinely inspired foretelling of events of God Almighty and ignore nations like ours? Do you think that's possible? Then where are we mentioned? You know that nations in the Bible, generally speaking, except for a few like Ethiopia, Libya, Egypt, and Greece, most of them are mentioned not according to their modern names like United States or Great Britain, but they are mentioned in the Bible and identified according to the ancient ancestors from which these nations grew and developed. And you have to learn where you came from to know whether you're mentioned in the Bible prophecies. Oh, the United States and the British Commonwealth are not ignored in biblical prophecy. The plain, astounding truth is that we are mentioned more often than any other race or any other nation on the face of the earth. And yet our true identity has been hidden from many and only revealed to the very few, and that recently, in the comparative modern present. The plain and simple Bible story of our ancestry, of our modern prophetic identity, is the most amazing, the most astounding, and the most fascinating and interesting story that you ever read. Is that important to you, or is it of no consequence whatsoever? You know, I feel like saying about this point, I forget the poem exactly. Breathes there a man with soul so dead that he never in his heart has said, this is my own beloved, what America, my own country. I forget the exact words of that. I shouldn't have forgotten it. I think perhaps we need to get some of those things out and repeat them a little more often.